Yes, of course. We're finally here. Saviors of Uldum, one of my favorite expansions, easily has the best uh, cinematic theme of any expansion. A really popular expansion as well. It has quests, it has Highlander cards, it has everything. I'm going to go through this one, of course, starting with Druid as always, and we'll work our way down. Starting with Untapped Potential, I think this is one of the coolest quests by far. I think it gives Druid a really interesting game plan. I think the easiest thing to do is just knock this down to like 3, maybe even 2. 3 definitely for sure. Ending 3 turns with any unspent mana is not the hardest thing ever. It wasn't even that hard to do in Standard. I think this quest could genuinely be quite good if we printed actual good, choose one effects that are good to combine. That's the thing about choose one effects nowadays, is they're not even that great to combine. Like, you have to consider at the time, Hidden Oasis was like a crazy card. You would get a 6/6 with taunt, and you would heal 12. Like, that was crazy for the time. And like something like Flipper Friends isn't a bad card even to get both of. It's just, it's not strong enough for something like Wild. So I think bumping this down to 3 and, going with the idea that you're printing better choose one cards really would help Untapped Potential a lot. In the same vein as the, ending your turn with unspent mana, I think Crystal Merchant could easily go to like a 1-drop. You have to consider that Crystal Merchant is just straight up worse than Gold Panner as a 2-drop. So why couldn't it just be a 1-drop? It's already going in a deck archetype that kind of isn't efficient. Not spending all of your mana is incredibly inefficient. So having a card like Crystal Merchant, which is an efficient card, would be nice. A 1-mana 1/2 that draws you a card as long as you, don't have, or have you excess, gosh, I can't talk, mana. That's really useful. It's incredibly efficient as long as you are able to have that extra mana. So it's still technically a 2-mana card rather than a 3-mana card. It's just, it has a little lower stats, make it a little more fair. It can't be a 1/4 for 1 mana. That would be a little, why would you do that? But I think this is perfectly fine for the card. It's so much more in line with Gold Panner nowadays because, like I said, it's effectively a 2-mana 1/2, draw a card, but it still synergizes incredibly well with the quest. So I think this is definitely where this card should go. Unseal the Vault. So this was actually a pretty powerful card in Standard at one point. I think the biggest issue with this card is summoning 20 minions is fucking impossible in Wild. It's actually impossible. You are never getting this off before you just lose the game because you have to run a bunch of terrible cards to summon minions. So, 10. It's not like the hero power is that strong anyway. Yeah, giving your whole board plus 2 attack was good in Standard, right? When you would actually be able to, have long enough games for that to add up and matter. But in Wild, plus 2 attack your whole board for 2 mana after already completing this quest is not very useful. It's kind of hard to use. The best way that you could use it is with, Unleash the Hounds, but, that also relies on your opponent having a board. It's not that great, I'm going to be honest with you. So cutting the requirement in half would help severely. I'm not just doing this because I have this card in Gold and I want to be able to play it. That's definitely not the reason I'm doing this, but it kind of is. Anyway, I think that Unseal the Vault, such a fun, iconic card. I think that this card could easily go to 10 minions. Wild Bloodstinger. So this card is kind of weird. A lot of people like to think that this is a really powerful tech option and Hunter and all these different things. It's not. It's actually a pretty bad card. Yeah, you can pull something from your opponent's hand, but you could also do that with Dirty Rat. And it's 2 mana instead of 6. Yeah. I think that a good way to change this card is summon the highest cost minion from your opponent's hand. Attack it. I think this gives it an actual niche where it actually has a use case to pull high cost minions as a tech card. Maybe you lower its stats, right? Because it's a little more ubiquitous in what it does instead of just being, oh, I'm just going to pull something and kill it. Now it's, I'm going to pull something important and attack it. Would this be too strong? I don't think so, in the slightest. It's fucking 6 mana. It's like Theatar, but worse. Because Theatar, you just steal the minion straight up. Yeah, Theatar is a 4/4, and this is a 6/6 now, but so what? This makes the card just so much better. You would run this in a Reno Hunter straight up. Reno Hunter currently is not very, it doesn't really know what third beast to run a lot of the time. You're always running Dreadscale. You're most of the time running Messaging Buzzard because it synergizes so well with your Patrick Pals and your Felderin and just the rest of the cards in your deck anyway. And then a lot of people like to run more beasts. I don't like that. I think that you always want to have 3 beasts in your Reno Hunter because you need to be able to hit your Dreadscale consistently off of Selective Breeder. And drawing through your deck doesn't really matter if you want to run like freaking Buzzard, right? Like Starving Buzzard. You're never going to actually be able to draw through your deck if you play that card like consistently. So it's just not worth it, in my opinion. You'll maybe draw 2 cards. Like, ever, from that card. And that's just like, why, what's the point? What's the point in making my deck worse just to have maybe the chance of drawing 2 cards? It's not. So Bloodstinger could fit that third beast slot. It's expensive, so you wouldn't pick it often, but it has its actual use cases, and it just fits Hunter pretty well. So I like this change a lot. Alright, so usually when I talk about how I don't want to change any cards from a class, it's because I think that, they're either boring, or they're already too strong, things like that. The thing about Mage is I think that, yes, a lot of these cards don't really see play anymore. Like, Reno doesn't see play anymore, Yogg-Box doesn't see play anymore, Cloud Prince doesn't see play anymore, Flak Mage and Flame Ward don't see play anymore. But that's not necessarily because they're weak cards. Flak Mage is an incredibly powerful card. Flame Ward is an incredibly powerful card. It's just that they don't really have a place to go. Flame Ward does sometimes see play in, like, Reno Mage, which isn't a good deck. That's why you don't really see it. And Flak Mage is amazing in Secret Mage. It's just Secret Mage is fucking gone because Blizzard, I don't know, they don't like it when there's actual counters to toxic decks, and then we have the issue that we've been having for the last year or so. Ooh, wow, who could have guessed? But then, like, Ancient Mysteries, incredibly powerful card. Naga Sandwich, you can't really change this card without breaking it. Raid the Sky Temple is just a complete failure of a design. Same with Dune Sculptor. And then Tortolan Pilgrim, I guess you could revert it to its original text, but like, so I guess I'm just going to buff Pilgrim and Reno, I guess. I don't really know. Of course, Tortolan Pilgrim was discover a copy of a spell. It was changed to discover a spell because of Turtle Mage, and that deck was not great. It was, like, fine. It was really just hard to play against, to be honest, but the game has gotten so much faster over the last few years that there's just no way that Turtle Mage is, like, an actual issue. I mean, are you actually getting to 8 mana to play fucking Tortolan Pilgrim? You're not. That's the thing. Like, if you are getting to 8 mana, you're better off just playing, like, Quest Mage, So reverting Tortolan Pilgrim definitely helps. It lets you actually do some fun stuff. Turtle Mage was fun. It was an objectively fun deck. A lot of people enjoyed it. Like, a lot of people. It let you play an actual grinder-style mage that wasn't really a thing in the past. I think that the main issue with Turtle Mage is the fact that you still went infinite, but, like, disruption is so prevalent in the game nowadays. You actually have good disruption cards that you can kind of get around it. Again, like I said, you have to get to like 8 or 9 mana before you can even start the combo. So there is that. But it's just, I don't know. I kind of think that it should come back, but I can understand why some people wouldn't. I'm going to be honest with you. And then Reno the Relicologist. If your deck has no duplicates, deal 10 damage, randomly split amongst all enemy minions. I think that first things first, you increase this to 16. I say 16 specifically so it can kill 2 giants. And then I think that it should be all randomly split among, or 16 damage. 16 damage split among the lowest health enemy minions. Is that how you would word that? I'm looking at Fan the Hammer, because that's basically what this is. Okay, if your deck has no duplicates, deal 16 damage split among the lowest health enemy minions. So this is a twofold buff. It will now, obviously, clear minions more efficiently, but it will, because it's 16, it'll kill 2 giants if there are 2 giants on board. I think this is so significantly better than what the current card is. The current card is just so bad. Dealing 10 is not good enough anymore for a 6-mana card. Now being able to, deal 16 makes this card significantly better. You can kill giants. That's the big thing, is if your card doesn't do enough damage to kill giants, it's just not worth it anymore, because giants are so prevalent in Wild Hearthstone. You have so many decks that can make giants work that are just so powerful. Even things like Grave Horrors and Priest have 8 health. You just have to be able to, kill giants. It's just so important in this game nowadays. Making Mummies. This is a really cool spell, in my opinion. Emperor's Wraps, of course, if you don't know, is 2 mana, summon a 2/2 copy of a minion. I think that you bump this down to 4, play 4 Reborn minions, or you bump it up to 7, and it's summon. Actually, does that make any sense? I don't think it does, now that I think about it. Let's just... Bink, bonk, bink, bonk, bonk, bink. There. I guess summon wouldn't really make sense, because when you reborn a reborn minion, it doesn't have reborn. And that way it would have been a little, you still have to play 4 minions, but you have to kill them off. Anyway, play 4 reborn minions, just a little buff at that. But the main reason this card isn't that great is that Reborn didn't really get good cards in Paladin anyway. So I'm going to go through the 2 Reborn minions that are in Paladin and make them a lot better, of course. Starting with Micro Mummy. This card, why is it 2 mana? I mean, genuine question, why was Micro Mummy 2 mana? If it was, too strong, you could have made it, a 1/1, but I don't even think at that. I think it was a 1/2, it's still fair. I really don't get why it was 2 mana and not just, a 1/1 for 1 mana. I really don't. If they thought it would be too strong back then, I guess. But nowadays, 1 mana 1/2 with this effect was completely fucking fine. With Reborn, it synergizes incredibly well with, of course, Making Mummies now, and it's a huge buff to the deck. Making Mummies, Paladin is a really funny deck, I'm not gonna lie. You just keep, resummoning your Card-Tooth Defenders with Reborn, so your opponent can't really get through it, or your other Reborn minions, or your Death Rattle minions that have a high value. It's just a really fun deck. It's not good, don't get me wrong, but that's not the point of this, right? It's to make it fun. It's to make it, so you can actually play it. And then Ancestral Guardian, I don't understand this card, especially, okay. I'm not going to compare this to Tiger's Plushie, because Tiger's Plushie, well, I guess I can, but Tiger's Plushie was a 3 mana 3/2 Divine Shield Rush Lifesteal miniaturize. Ancestral Guardian is a 4 mana 4/2 Lifesteal Reborn. Yup. I mean, yeah, Tiger's Plushie got nerfed, but Tiger's Plushie has 2 more keywords, gives you a 1/1 with all of those keywords, and Tiger's Plushie is still good at 4 mana. That's the thing. It's still a good card at 4 mana. So, Ancestral Guardian can go to 3 mana, and it's not an issue in the slightest. This card still probably sucks, but it helps the Making Mummies deck immensely. You can't really give Reborn minions Rush, also, I want to point out, because someone is going to say it. Someone's going to be like, oh, why don't you give Ancestral Guardian Rush? And then they just didn't fucking pay attention. If you give Ancestral Guardian Rush, you kill it off, because it has Rush and only 2 health, and then it resummons, and then it has Rush and Lifesteal again with a 4 attack. So on turn 3, you have 2 4 attack minions with Rush and Lifesteal. On turn 3. Yeah, you can't do that. Even if you nerf the stats of this minion, you can't do that. To 3, you can't do that. There's no reason that the Death Knight Seamstress card is a 3 mana 3/3 Rush Lifesteal Reborn, but because it's a battle cry, it doesn't gain Rush and Lifesteal when it respawns. And that's a good thing, because it would probably be way too strong if it did. Activate the Obelisk. 1 mana, restore 15 health. I think this could be restore or overheal 15 health. Now hear me out. This is a pretty, substantial buff. The main issue with Activate the Obelisk in the past was if you didn't take any damage, you just couldn't trigger it. Now, because of the overheal keyword, you can make it so you just overheal. And that's, a pretty significant buff. If you don't know, Obelisk Eye is 2 mana, restore 3. If it's a minion, give it +3/+3. So that's actually a pretty powerful hero power for a, buff style priest. I don't think you would run this in any kind of buff priest anyway because it's too weak, but it makes the card significantly better for a standalone activate the Obelisk kind of buff priest deck that you can play. Holy Ripple. So this card was printed at a time where Blizzard really didn't want to give priest any face damage. Of course, that's not the game anymore. Priest has really good face damage. It has a lot of shadow spells that do face damage. But Holy Ripple technically isn't a shadow spell. It's a holy spell, of course, not technically. But I was thinking, deal 1 damage to all enemies, restore health equal to the damage dealt, split amongst all friendly characters. So this is a twofold buff. That's not how you spell amongst. This is a twofold buff. It makes the card better with spell damage, of course, and then it makes it better as just a powerful removal card for a non-shadow control priest. Say you play Holy Ripple and it hits 5 targets. It's going to be 2 mana, hit 5 enemy minions, or I guess 4 enemy minions and the enemy hero for 1 damage, restore 5 health, randomly split amongst all friendly characters. So it's going to heal you for 5. Now, you might be thinking, oh, what the fuck? That's so powerful. Is it? Is it? Spirit Lash. Spirit Lash is a card. Spirit Lash is 2 mana, deal 1 damage to all minions with lifesteal. So, if they have 7 minions, and you have some minions, you're going to heal like 10 health from 1 card, and deal 1 damage to all minions. Yeah, this only hits your opponent, so you can't heal as much, and if you have minions on board, they will snipe the healing, so it's not guaranteed to heal your face. But, if you don't have minions on board, it's going to heal you for more than Spirit Lash could, because it does 1 damage face. So if Spirit Lash can heal you max for 7, this can heal you max for 8. I don't see any issue with this at all. I think that non-shadow priest needs a significant buff in wild to be good. It's pretty terrible. The only non-shadow priest in the format right now is Miracle Priest, and that's not really a control priest, so you wouldn't even care about this card. There's no non-shadow control priest that is playable in any possibilities in this format, and that's a shame, because that's how priest has been for 8 years. Priest was like that for 8 years, right? So why are we not actually printing good holy spells? I don't know. So this is Ancient Blades. It is the hero power that you get from the Bizarre Burglary quest, which is, 1 mana. Obviously, it's the 1 mana quest, obviously. And then it's get 4 cards from other classes. You can complete it instantly on turn 1 with the new Twisted Pack, but Ancient Blades is just such a bad reward that there's no reason to play it anyway. So I'm thinking that you have to rework this quest a little bit. I usually don't like completely reworking cards because it kind of takes the spirit out of it, but I think you have to add something to Ancient Blades because it is just so bad. So I think the way that you word it is equip an ancient blade with immune and add a random card from another class to your hand while attacking. This is not the best wording, don't get me wrong, but I guess would 3/2 blade fit more? Yeah, I guess. 3/2 blade with immune and add a random card from another class to your hand while attacking. So the idea behind this is it keeps the immune while attacking feature, but now it gives you a random card for another class while you attack with the weapon. Is that good? Probably not, but it at least makes the hero power not fucking worthless. The quest wasn't completing the quest wasn't the issue. This is one of the easiest quests in the entire game to complete. It's just Ancient Blades is completely fucking worthless. It's actually one of the worst quest rewards in the entire game. I'd say it's probably the worst. I'd say it's worse than Galvadon, because Galvadon doesn't just give you a fucking shitty 3/2 weapon. Galvadon can actually win the game. This won't win you any games. It's just a shitty 3-2 weapon. Like, what the fuck is the point of this card? I'm actually being serious. What were they thinking printing this? Anyway, this is the buff that I would change for Bizarre Burglary, especially because it now fits the Thief idea. Like, in the past, Ancient Blades had nothing to do with the Thief Rogue, so, like, what the fuck is the point? I don't get it. Hooked Scimitar. I'm gonna say it. I'm just gonna say it. I think that Pirate Rogue is really fucking annoying, and I'm tired of seeing it. I am so annoyed and tired of Pirate Rogue that I want there to be a different aggro rogue, if that's what it takes. Because aggro rogue is going to exist always, so I'm just gonna say fuck it, and I'm gonna overbuff the shit out of this card. Bink, fucking bonk, 2 mana. I don't give a shit. This is like the actual worst change I've ever made. I don't care. I just want Pirate Rogue gone, and I want there to be a different aggro rogue. That's all I can say. Okay, now that I said that, let's go into an actual way you can change this card. I think it should be probably 3 mana. Combo, gain +1 attack for each combo card you've played this turn. So now it's like a combo rogue card specifically. Let's bump that down. If you play like 3 or 4 combo cards in one turn, it's going to have more attack than it would have before. Is that a problem? I don't really think so. And, hear me out, it now is a replacement for Draka, because Draka is fucking unplayable, and then they never reverted that card. But this is only for combo cards specifically. So, what does that mean? If you play a combo rogue, you can do some really disgusting things with this card and get like a 10 attack weapon on like turn 3 or 4. Is that good? Probably. It's probably really good, I'm going to be honest with you. But it will have a lot more counterplay than something like Kingsbane, which can already do that anyway, because you can't destroy Kingsbane. So, combo, gain +1 attack for each card you play, combo card you play this turn, I guess probably be capital. Yeah. It's weaker initially, but if you play 3 combo cards, it's as good as it was before. And if you play any more, it actually has like a fun, interaction. I think that this makes the card just more fun. I think that a combo aggro rogue is a lot more interesting. It's definitely a lot harder. That's the thing, is playing like a high kind of APM combo aggro rogue is so significantly harder than playing Pirate Rogue that you could like, it's like night and fucking day. I'm going to be real. So I think that changing Hook Scimitar to like this would be genuinely so cool. Mogu Fleshshaper. This is actually a really powerful card at one point in time. Not only just because of the evolve aspect of it, just because it was really good to have a super cheap rush minion like this. Why is it? Okay, so I think you bump this down to 7 mana, and it's a 2-fold buff. Again, 8 drops are usually better than 10 drops for evolves anyway. I guess unless you hit Epsilon specifically, 8 drops are usually going to be better. And it's just a lot cheaper. You could run this in like Reno Shaman as just a pretty good minion. It's just a pretty good minion. That's all it has to be. And I think that that's where a card like this should be. Mogu Fleshshaper as just a one of kind of decent removal card. That's not an issue in any way, shape, or form. Honestly, it would be very cool. Plague of Murlocs. So back when this card was printed, I can completely understand Blizzard's thought process of, make it a little more expensive than Devolve, and because Murlocs are, pretty weak overall. But as time went on, we got better and better and better and bigger and larger Murlocs to the point where Plague of Murlocs, I'd say, is not even better than Devolve for even at 2 mana. I would say it's probably not better than Devolve. Because, you can hit Mutanus and Gigafin and a bunch of Descent of Dragons Murlocs that were printed, and a lot of Murlocs that have been printed since time, like Funkfin or things like that. That would make this a lot weaker than Devolve, because you actually are just giving your opponent some pretty decent minions. So I think changing it to 2 mana, just puts it in line with Devolve now that it's, of course, 2 mana. Devolve's 2 mana. Yes, it's worse than Devolve for 1 drop specifically. It's significantly worse. But for expensive minions, it's going to be a lot better on average, because if you're devolving a bunch of 8 drops, damn. As well as this is really, really key against giants, because giants devolve into other giants. You can't devolve, like, Molten Giant, you can't devolve, because there's nothing that costs less than it. Arcane Giant will devolve into another giant, 11 mana. So, Plague of Murlocs is now incredible against giants specifically, which, again, fuck giants. They're so ubiquitous to this format that you have to have so many cards that have to deal with giants specifically. Rift Cleaver. So, when Death Knight was released, Obliterate was a card, of course. They eventually buffed Obliterate to be 2 mana, destroy a minion, take 3 damage. Rift Cleaver, and it had the same text as Rift Cleaver. Destroy a minion, your hero takes damage equal to its health in the past. So I think Rift Cleaver could probably be like a 4 mana, I don't know, 4 mana, like 4/4. Just same text, same everything. It would be a huge buff to like Arena Warlock that would love this card, probably. I think that this would go in like Arena Warlock. The main thing though that this is a buff to is Even Warlock. This is a huge buff to Even Warlock, because like it gives you just removal that you didn't really have access to in the past, while also being a minion and also damaging your hero at the same time for your own Molten Giant. So I think this helps a lot. Yeah, it's a demon, which is a little scuffed for end game, which is, the 2 mana summon your last demon that died, but like, so just play around it better. I don't know what to say. Like, if you're fucking 9/9 with taunt that you're summoning on like turn 4 isn't dead before the Rift Cleaver, I mean, sucks to suck, I guess. Like, right? Like, I feel like this is just such a nice card to have as a tech option for like certain matchups, certain metas, and I'm gonna say it. I think Control Warlock should somehow come back. So I don't think that like buffing a card like this to the point of it being like quite good is an issue. I don't. I really don't. Okay. Hear me out. So Dread Lich Tamsin, the hero card, added a new sort of type of card for Warlock in the Rifts, where you would get the 3/3s that, would cast when drawn, things like that. So I was thinking, what if you just did that for Imp Bombing? 4 mana spells can just destroy minions with upsides nowadays. Look at Siphon Soul. So why couldn't Imp Bombing do something like that? Shuffle 3 Rifts into your deck. And then if you, like I said, the Rift is a 2 mana spell, I think. It might be a 3 mana spell. That has cast when drawn, summon a 3/3 Imp. And that's it. So, Imp Bombing in the past was supposed to be like a downside to destroying a minion, but like I said, nowadays, cards like Siphon Soul are 4 mana, destroy a minion, heal 3. You have cards that are downside, destroy a minion, cost like 2 fucking mana, dude, with Obliterate in Death Knight. So, Imp Bombing now is more in line with like Siphon Soul, because I'd say healing 3 is better than shuffling 3 Rifts. I'm going to be 100% with you. I think it is better because the Rifts also turn off your like OG Reno cards if you were to play this in like a Reno deck. So this would be like a last resort kind of card, I think that makes it a little more interesting than just like a generic 4 mana destroy kind of thing. And again, Control Warlock is pretty much unplayable garbage, so I would kind of wish that we could have, more powerful cards that could try and push it to be better. The system. Again, really terrible quest. So I think first thing you do is you bump it down to 4, and then I'm going to touch Anrafet's Core as well. I'm not going to take too long on Hack the System itself because, it's just bumped down from 5 to 4. So Anrafet's Core currently reads, summon a 4/3 Golem after hero attacks, refresh this, right? There is a card that was printed in Knights of the Frozen Throne, Mountain Fire Armor. It is also a 4/3. But it has Death Rattle. If it's your opponent's turn, gain 6 armor. So, I was thinking, what if Anrafet's Core summoned Mountain Fire... I don't actually know how to spell it. One second. It's a lowercase. Okay. Mountain Fire Armor. After your hero attacks, refresh this. Bink bonk. Bink bonk. So, summon a Mountain Fire Armor after your hero attacks, refresh this. So now, instead of just getting a shitty 4/3 that does nothing, it's a shitty 4/3 that also has Death Rattle, gain 6 armor if your opponent cleared it. So it's still same stat line, but it has a conditional upside that is very powerful. Mountain Fire Armor used to see play in like a N'Zoth Warrior, right? Where you would have that as just a pretty good resummon, and it would just be a pretty good thing. So I think Androfet's Core summoning a better minion just is nice. It keeps the same stat line. It doesn't gain rush or taunt or, you know, have more stats like things that people in the past wanted. I just think this is a big buff to the card without actually like changing the idea of the 4/3 that gets summoned from the core. And then for Livewire Lance, I mean, this one's super simple. Just 2 mana. Like, I think Livewire Lance is actually a really cool card. It gives Warrior a pretty decent weapon. A 2/2 weapon is fine. And it gives you some actual flexibility in lackeys, because lackeys are still quite strong. That's the thing that people don't realize, is lackeys are still pretty good. It's just that lackey generators are very weak nowadays. Like, Livewire Lance is a 3 mana 2/2 weapon. Like, what? So, yeah, that's why I think you have Livewire Lance just fits pretty well at 2 mana now, and it makes lackeys just playable again. Honestly. Desert Obelisk. I mean, this card is really bad. It's a terrible card. It's one of the worst cards ever printed. I don't know why they made it like this. I'm going to deal 5 damage to all enemies. I mean, this card would still be terrible. Don't get me wrong. Summoning 3 of these is really fucking hard. Like, incredibly hard. So I think that rewarding you with 15 damage to all enemies is pretty funny. Because, like, how the fuck are you going to do it anyway? You couldn't do it in the first place to get 5 damage to a random enemy. How the fuck, like, so, like, what? It's not like the card is that much better. You're now just actually rewarded if you're able to get, like, 6 of these, you know? Like, if you had, oh, what's it called? The Shaman Spellstone or Criminal Lineup is, like, the best way you could ever make this work, I think. And even at that, it's still terrible. So I think this is just really funny more than anything else. Siamat. Siamat's actually a really cool card. It saw a lot of play early on when it came out, just as a good neutral legendary that did a lot of stuff. I think that this card could be fine if it were like a 5 mana 5/5.
That's not good.
Oops. I just unpaused the video. But yeah, as a 5 mana 5/5, I think Siamat would become so much better. I don't think it would actually even see that much play, but it would be really nice for elemental decks. I bring up elemental and Murloc decks all the time because they're bad and they need a lot of support. So why couldn't you make it Siamat like a 5 mana 5/5? Would it slot into like just like generic Reno decks as just a generic good 5-drop? Probably. It probably would. But does that matter? Not really, right? Like, this card doesn't just instantly become broken if you knock it down by 2 mana 2/2. Like, yeah, the Wind Fury is a little scary, but like, if you drop a 5 mana 5/5 Divine Shield Wind Fury and your opponent can't really deal with it, I think you're allowed to have that. Like, I think you're allowed to have that because it still just loses to so many things. Like, Zephyrus still just full clears this card for 4 mana, right? Like, I think that this is completely fine, and it just gives more flexibility to the card. It makes it so much better. And then, of course, we're at Zephyrus, dude. This card is so weak, bro. Let's make it 0 mana. Oh, yeah. Maybe put a 1 in front of it. What? 10 mana Zephyrus the Great? Oh, my God! That was the whole joke. I don't really have anything else. I just thought it would be funny to make Zephyrus 10 mana. I don't know. I just thought it was funny. If you enjoyed, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me what you think down below. Did I change any cards you liked? Did I change any cards you don't like? Do you like the changes that I made? Do you dislike any of them? Was there anything you thought I should have changed instead? And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Shadows are rising again,
Darker than they've ever been.